What's going on, everybody?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Uh,
Hey, what's up? I'm Shawnee.
I appreciate the week off last week. I was getting class down. Appreciate y'all coming back this week. But I got to start the week. I know we late. Catch the Super Bowl. Let's see what happened. we forget. So salute to the Chiefs. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. The whole like I had confidence Mahomes was gonna pull it off. But it was one of those. It was like, man, this, you got to admit it. It's a really good team. Jalen Hurts play and improve better. I want to say his jump might have been about as big as Josh Allen's jump. And I would say probably his maybe bigger because his team went further. He went all the way to the Super Bowl, down to the wire. And so, literally, I know you controversy on that whole call, but it's just like, it's one of those 50-50. If it's your team, you say, hey, that's a hold. If you say, hey, I say, hey,
Well, from the angles I saw it was a legit call. It's just the fans, they got the advantage of seeing all these slow motion replays, and the refs got to make it in real time. And I saw one angle. Now you can clearly see his his hand having jerseys. So if the refs see that, they're gonna throw a flag. That's what they're supposed to do. So I mean, I guess people like to try to, like a lot of people like to, they got to find some blame in that play, whatnot. It was a legit call. It was a legit call.
And I respect that wasn't saying he could have. And that's all players. Even if you feel that you let that go, him coming out and following toward, I respect the man for that. I respect James Bradbury for that because it's like he could have easily, nitpicked and complained. Because I heard like one of the broadcasters, NBC Philly, he was on air. It was like that was BS. And he said it for real. And I was like, yeah, but depending on what type of network it is, he might not even get FCC fine if it's cable. But if it's over the air, yeah, he get fined.
Yeah, a lot of the fans gonna get
He's gonna be remembered by the Philly fans. Like, he kept it real. He kept it real. Especially the way that fan base is very in your face.
I saw that they said that the view. I think it was by NFL video. The view that they showed that you can clearly see the hole. That view was shown within the stadium. At the time, they said the people in the stadium didn't know it was going to be that much backlash because it was, squarely caught in the stadium. They didn't know about the backlash or how much attention that call received until they, left the stadium. They said within the stadium, it was clear. You can the screenshot that they showed or whatnot on the video board, whatnot, and what they saw in the booth. Like you could clearly see the hole. And I guess once you went outside the stadium and everybody talking about it, it's not like the whole thing that happened in the Bengals game versus the Chief. The dude, you know, pushed Mahomes, which was also a clear foul, but he pushed Mahomes and everybody was trying to gang up on that defensive player. And it was a clear, caught on camera moment. You know,
It was, what it's funny? It's starting to be. Okay, this is the third Super Bowl the Chiefs has made, and I was wondering what was going to happen, and it's happened. It's already happened. All the hype over Burrow, and it's like, yes, true enough, he won. True enough, his Burrow and the Bengals had beaten them in the playoffs and in the regular season multiple times. But it was starting to happen where you want somebody else to win so bad, and it's just like now I think this season here is going to be straight 100%. I hate the Chiefs. Like, it was like, oh, yeah, fun to look at because if your team is out and you want to watch something interesting, the Chiefs are a great watch. Like, and plus, it ain't no pressure on you because it's not your team. But actually seeing how great he is, and like understanding like everybody don't get to do this. Everybody don't get to be that good, and And I think it's like now it's like that's out the window. The love affair is gone unless you're a hardcore Chiefs fan or you just like the guy like I do. it's gonna be like I want them to lose, and then now it's Burrow. Like, hey, it's Burrow because he's shown, hey, he's got the skills on the wall. He's been to back-to-back AFC Championship games, knocked Mahomes off, and been to a Super Bowl. The only thing with them is I'm worried about how cheap that organization is. Like I've heard stuff like their scouts don't even. That's why if you wonder why, hey, they always got a lot of LSU players or a lot of this player, like Ohio State. That's in their state. They don't want to travel too much for their scouts, and so they're limited in what they do, and they're limited in what they spend. Now they're gonna have to break the bank for Burrow, but he's also breaking the bank for them, like sellouts and merchandise and Chase as well. They're gonna pay them too, and how they replace them. That's in 2 3 years. That's what's gonna be the story. Is are they still gonna be there? Because I know Burrow, and I love the confidence. Was like the window is open as long as I'm here. Love it. Love for you to say that, but also the window depends on what your front office does. And so,
Hmm.
but speaking of the Chiefs, while they were, of course, when you're a Super Bowl champion and you're a good team, you do lose players, which is coming later in the offseason, and you lose coaches. So it's kind of a man. It's a topic that it's like we got to discuss it because as far as coaching, it's real. It sucks that Eric Bieniemy, if you haven't heard, is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. And so I know that it was whispers that he was not whispers, but he was up for the offensive coordinator job with Baltimore. I wonder if the contract situation stopped him from taking it because while it may fair or unfair, you're going to get judged on your offensive production as the coordinator. I'd rather go to a place with a defined quarterback, no matter what you think of the system or Lamar as a runner. He can pass well enough. He's going to put up numbers and points. Sometimes as an offensive coordinator, they look at those points and yards. And if you get Jackson, that's points and yards. If of course, health permitting, and they've had a bad string of bad luck on injuries the last 2 seasons. So of course, I think that would turn around. But for him to take Washington's, who doesn't have a quarterback right now, has limited weapons, it's another stain on. Hey man, you can say Eric Bieniemy didn't call plays. And I'm gonna get to the LaShawn McCoy thing because it's like I kind of like it and hate it at the same time. But you have to. They want a guy that's a play caller. Even though we've seen Matt Nagy, and Matt Nagy was not a success. He did not call plays in Kansas City. Andy Reid calls the plays, but being able to be the offensive coordinator for that long under him, even though he doesn't interview good, I would have thought by now. I hoped by now, not thought, but I hope by now he would have gotten a job. And this is the step that now I'm not gonna lie with the limited weapons and no quarterback. If they're a top of the league offense, like 16 and up, I think that's an indictment that okay, maybe he's a pretty good play caller. Maybe he's a good offensive designer because he doesn't. I know they have a running back, but they don't. The offensive line is mad. Quarterback is a non-existent, and you got. Well, I will say this: they got Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, and they got Curtis Samuels, and so they got three guys there, and Logan Thomas is he's an okay tight end. So, but if he makes that work there, I mean, that's just an indictment if he doesn't get a job then, because then it's like, hey, he has the experience as a coordinator on a championship team, and he's got the play calling experience now. So,
Yeah, I remember people was calling this because people were saying that this was actually a promotion because he's going to be OC again with the Commanders, but he's going to be assistant head coach, and he's going to be calling plays, and he received a pay increase. I guess by the everyday working citizen in America, it was a promotion. But I'm like, man, no, this is not a promotion. It's a lateral. It's a better lateral. But the thing about it with Bieniemy, I can't remember in the past where a offensive coordinator, hell, you can even say a defensive coordinator as well, that has an extensive resume filled with success, especially over the past five seasons, because he became OC when they put Mahomes on the field. So pretty much all of Mahomes' success, Eric Bieniemy was right there with him. And I can't remember a coordinator having his responsibilities and everything, his duties to his respective team gets critiqued as much as Eric Bieniemy. They because I remember because usually with a coordinator, if they have the success like Bieniemy has experienced when he was with KC, other teams are quick to pluck them away from that team because they want them to bring that success to their respective organizations. You don't be hearing nothing about play calling. No, he was an offensive coordinator on pretty much the best offense of the past 5 seasons. So and he's willing to go out and look for a head coaching job. They are so quick to pluck them away. And usually, like Alabama in college, usually if there's and the perfect example I'll say is New England. If there's a franchise that has had sustained amount of success over a span of 5+ seasons, besides the head coach, he's usually the mainstay, of course. But the coordinators have a tendency to they got to constantly replenish that because they are constantly being plucked to different organizations because they want a piece of the success that franchise is experiencing. So I mean, you got Josh McDaniels at one time with the Patriots, um, Bill O'Brien, um, Joe Judge, who I believe was a
Yeah,
special teams coach.
his
You
coach.
can name all the coordinators and coaches whatnot that was with the Patriots. That because the Patriots were so successful, and the same thing in college football with Alabama, because their coaches get plucked all the time.
And it's
That
a
you don't
copycat
hear,
league.
yeah, you don't hear people constantly, um, this who's playing calling the plays. Because with New England, their head coach is known for defense, and even their defensive coordinators are still getting plucked out. Matt Patricia,
Cornell.
I forgot it. Exactly, they still getting plucked out. They're not worrying about who's actually calling the defensive plays or who's structuring it because people will say Belichick, but other teams still want to pluck those coaches from the Patriots because they want a piece of that success to come to their respective franchise. So
And
with the Chiefs, it'd be the same thing with Bieniemy. Bieniemy was there since they had this huge wave of success. So he's like, okay, we want a piece of that. We want to bring that to our franchise. So just go if he's willing to come to us, go pluck him away from the Chiefs, and Andy Reid just had to backfill that. But I've never heard that until we got to Eric Bieniemy. Well, now you are so focused on his play calling, and for whatever reason, the dude went on double-digit interviews and he still doesn't have a job. And to me, that shows me the GMs are talking, and which they already do. GMs talk to each other,
yes,
and
they
for
do.
whatever reason, he has double-digit interviews, and nobody offered him a job. So they got whatever they saying amongst each other. But yeah, the perfect example is look at the Patriots because when the Patriots, it was all about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and if it was defense, it was squarely on Belichick. You
Yeah.
didn't even hear nothing about the defensive coordinator too much. But then all of a sudden, but they still getting plucked. What's up, Alexis?
Alexis,
Um,
shout out to your Chiefs, man.
they still getting plucked from the Patriots. So I would look at the Chiefs and be like, especially the main, because you don't even look at the Chiefs defense. I mean, they just an average defense,
And,
but
and,
that
and matter of fact,
offense is another story.
and what's and I'm glad you said that because that leads into my next point. They got a career coordinator as their DC and Steve Spagnuolo. And where you got a
Yeah,
guy, and that's perfect. I'm not sure if he's had a head coaching job or he just wasn't considered for one, and you get labeled as just a coordinator. You can't label a guy as just a coordinator if he never gets a shot as a head coach. He should at least get his, Eric Bieniemy should at least get a shot to be a head coach. And then if it doesn't work, then he goes from, coordinator over here. Because we know for black coaches normally, you get that one good shot. Maybe you get two. After that, you're a career coordinator or you got to go down like Herm Edwards, who came from that Dungy tree. He's, went job to job and then went down to college, got that bag. And then, they did him wrong over there, but now he's back being an analyst. Eric Bieniemy deserves a shot. And I know you were mentioning it about New England. even without the same success, if you touch the hem of Sean
Belichick.
McVay's garment
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
2019
yeah.
offseason, you
That's
got a
another
job.
example.
He did not, Zach Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, was not a play caller. He was a quarterback's coach. And just because him, what is his name that is now he's going to be an OC again, should have never been an NFL coach. Uh, Guns up, Texas Tech. What is his name?
Oh, yeah.
Forgot his name that
Cardinals
fast.
coach.
Man, his name just slips me, and I know him because he's played. He played at Tech, but and coached at OU and everything. But he just from having a relationship with Sean McVay was able to get into the door, get noticed, and then collar
Cliff
motion.
Kingsbury.
Yes, and Cliff Kingsbury just like he failed. He literally failed. You got guys failing up. You got guys like, and then basically, let's be honest. Zach Taylor got the job, and then he's an offensive guy. He had Andy Dalton, who's a veteran quarterback. Those guys won 2 games. Like he earned the number 1 pick, and it was in a position where it was like he might not make it here too much longer. And then all because Joe Burrow's good contract extension. I'm still not sold that he's actually a good coach, but he's going to be able to get that job. And now when you look back on it, you can retroactively say that was a good decision. Look at that GM over there. It's like, was it really, or did they just get the number 1 pick, got blessed, and then quarterback gets hurt, you get another top 5 pick, and you happen to get his college receiver, who happens to be one of the better receiver picks we've seen in the last 20 years. So it's like, the white coaches get to fail up, get to get lucky and get in those situations where the black coaches get I'm sorry, let's just bring it out. It's true. They get the Texans job, where it's just like we're clearly trying to fail, and we're not going to really give you a chance after we get a chance to get good. And because I think it's just simply because his family situation and the fact that they probably gave him more control and more power is the reason why DeMeco Ryans is there, because his name was hot. And I feel like the Texans knew they needed some goodwill, his family life, able to help that, especially as a first-time head coach. The kids are going to be fine. My wife is going to be straight. That does mean something. I know people don't look at these coaches and players as just robots, but like stuff like that does matter. We don't know how much that matters to him, but it is something that you can put a stick and say,
I'm pretty sure it matters
me.
because when he left the Texans, when he was playing for the Texans, he left on bad terms. He actually sued the Texans for some stuff. So it was a rocky relationship between DeMeco Ryans and the Texans. Of course, that had to be smoothed out, and the way, which was nice to see. I don't know if you ever saw the video of them doing a welcome home
Yes. Yeah.
for him. That was nice. That put aside all the feelings I have for that Texans front office, because I always think the front office is a Texans issue. The players, they play hard. The
Yeah.
player, they don't have the experience nor the talent. But I was always believe if you had a young coach and you have all these draft picks, dude, you have a chance to literally mold this team your own image.
Yeah.
But it was the front office that was catching all the negative headlines. But yeah, but put aside all that and that image, like I said, I don't know if all the other franchises do this in the NFL, especially if it was a former player coming back to that team to coach. But that image with D'Amico and his family, and we was walking into the
Mm-hmm.
Texas facility, and they had to welcome home, and everybody was congratulating him and standing right there welcoming him in. That was a nice image. I mean, I'll admit that was a nice image, especially because it was a black quarterback. Head coach, and it was not like D'Amico Ryans was wanted. And I believe
Yeah.
the Broncos was waiting for him, and then once the Texans got him, that's when the Broncos went the
Made
Sean
the call
Payton
for
route.
sure.
But
And
yeah, that was a nice image. I like that image.
I liked it. I like the image. And to be honest, man, like I've said it before, Houstonians, I didn't realize how sensitive it was because I never had my professional team move on me. And not only just move, put me in the same division with them. And then they wear those Oilers throwbacks. I know that irks old school, like Oiler fans. I know that like rubs them the wrong way. So it's real finicky there. I think as far as the goodwill of the people, yeah, Watt's gone, but players come and go, especially he was Well, he went out with double-digit sacks, but he was really fading in Houston because they needed so much of him. And so with that going, the Deshaun Watson fiasco, if they get him, and especially with Houston having a large black base, if they get a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud, I think people are gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna give him another chance. I had a partner that said he gave up the Texans. After all he gave, he said, man, it's not bringing me no joy. It's a mess. The Easterby stuff. He flat out gave him up.
Yeah,
And I was like,
it's basically everything front office related. A lot of people like that because the
yes,
front office was the one that's keeping them down.
because it's almost like we forgot at the beginning of 2020, these guys were up 20, was it 24 to nothing on the Chiefs? And it's like, and then in the blink of an eye, that was over. It looks like then the allegations and the cases came out and the coaching search and it just no the
Well,
Hopkins trade.
that
The
it
Hopkins
was
trade.
yeah, exactly. Exactly that
Oh,
24. Okay, they lost that game. There was a young team, but you had a promising young quarterback. So we like, okay, great. That off season, I remember I was at damn Walmart over here, and all of a sudden I get this notification: the Texans trade DeAndre Hopkins. Damn
for
near,
nothing.
literally, I did it for 15 seconds. I threw my Texans cap in the trash because I saw that, and it's been downhill from there. They traded Hopkins, gave Watson the huge contract,
Yeah.
and he played that 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden,
Played great. Played great
yeah, he
with that
played
second round.
great considering the circumstances, and then all of a sudden they lied to him and stuff that prior to all the other off the field stuff, and then that's when he chose not to play, really not because of off the field, it's because of his views about the front office, and then the off the field stuff came to light,
Yeah.
and then of course, so he had actually within a 4 year span signed two big contracts.
Yeah.
One for Houston, then of course the one he currently has for Cleveland. So, but yeah,
And
that's when the downhill for that franchise started going.
of course, if you think about it, if you line up the all-time Texas team, the best quarterback he had, and I'll respect Dre
It was
because I
Matt
saw that
Schaub.
the second best receiver you ever had. And the thing is, Watson would be higher, but it's like you saw the potential, but unfortunately, it's going to play out somewhere else. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like so. You can say the number 2 quarterback and the number 2 receiver you ever had, and just walk out the door in a few years, all because of your front office. But I'll transition with. I know we talked a lot about as far as the NBA because it's coming. It's like the final stretch. Because I hate it when people say second half. It's like post All-Star break.
It's
It's
like what
23 games
25,
left.
20. Yeah.
Depending, like the Lakers, I know they have 23 left. Some teams a few more, just depending on how their schedule is played. But
Mm-hmm.
before we get to like how things are going to close up and finish, I saw somebody debating it, and I saw we said if you're new here, we did it. You got to go back and look at it. We did it the GOAT debate and stuff a long time ago because it takes up too much space. So please go back and rewatch that video. But just the fact that everything is blamed on LeBron, I think everything gets blamed on LeBron, and I think everything Jordan gets praised. Like people were like literally saying, "Oh, he broke the scoring record." And his kids had on Jordans. See, that's why. Okay, you do realize that Jordan, him, and the marketing arm that Nike is two totally different things. They didn't market harder because he was a great ball player. It helped, but he almost had little to nothing to do with that other than read this, do this commercial with Spike, do this. So it's kind of like, hey, and I will say this: Nike knew what they did with that, and they said we will never do this again. Imagine if they let him do what Jordan did with LeBron, and then LeBron would have the power that he had, and he had to have his team brand. They had to give the man his own brand because they bet it all on him, and he, used that to his advantage. But one thing that I will say, you can give him some blame, but you also have to give the NBA some blame, is the dunk contest. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like a tape. I can't remember what the video was. And LeBron was like, "I'm an all-star," and he was cussing. He was mad. He like threw something, and like between him thinking he was supposed to be an all-star, and then so he felt like he got snubbed. I
That
also
was his
heard
rookie
that,
season.
yeah, his rookie season. I also heard stuff that like when he was in high school, he wasn't a great show dunker, but in-game dunker, definitely one of the best. I mean it's debatable, but it's like he's dunked on people. He can
He
still rock
remained
it.
that in his
Yeah,
pros.
yes. And so, but for whatever reason, it was rumors that he wasn't that great at it, so he may have lost. But at that time, I think if you catch him early, I think he probably would have did okay. Because if you look at it,
Well, well,
you
to
know,
piggyback off that high school point you brought up real quick, he was in a slam dunk contest with Shannon Brown, and the contest was held in Akron or Cleveland, in LeBron's home area. So Shannon Brown had the better show, but LeBron ultimately got the home cooking, so he won. But he said he knew, man, I didn't win
and,
this, Shannon Brown.
and as we saw, Shannon Brown he's a great dunker. I remember as a Laker fan what was it, LetShannonDunk.com. He just got to the dunk contest and didn't really do what he was supposed to do, but he could throw down some dunks in here. And also, I'll say this: I want to say if you're shorter, your dunks are going to look, especially on television, are going to look more visual. Like it was hard for Dwight Howard to win that dunk contest being so big, but his leaping ability was crazy. I mean, Kemp, he's 6'9". If you're so amazing, you're gonna win. So LeBron gets the hate for the dunk contest, and he should get some of it. But I'll say this: the NBA as a league, you cannot give a player more power than the league. LeBron, the league clearly could have. They clearly could have gotten LeBron to do the dunk contest. There was a way for them to do it. We're talking about David Stern, which I have, feelings sometimes on David Stern about how he handled business, but he could have got it done.
We also got some because so basically, as we know, we're talking about the All Star Game festivities, and in particular the dunk contest. Dunk contests over the years, especially in the early '90s in the past, they always had the mega stars. Well, I don't want to say mega stars because you had the big names, like the players who brought the most excitement for their dunking ability was participating in the slam dunk contest. Then, so that included Jordan, Dr. Dre. Jordan wasn't the Jordan today when he was, because I think he participated in '88. He was just a young stud of a player and who could have some incredible hops, so people wanted to see him. But that whole Jordan, the 6 championships, the way we look at him today, he wasn't that yet. Um, Fast forward, what was it, '98? If folks remember, if they look it up, I don't think there was a slam dunk contest in '98 because it was
The
taken. They
lockout.
removed it. It was
Yeah,
well, they removed it. They removed it in '98 because it was failing.
yeah, it
The
was failing.
lockout happened in '99.
99. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
You're right.
they had back to back All Star games. Well, one All Star when it wasn't there, the other one because of the lockout. So back to back years, no slam dunk contest. So because they was talking about this because Brian Windhurst, if he broke it down, and when that was why 2000 was so huge.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the famous,
He's
which will go back probably the best slam dunk performance of all time with Vince Carter. But it was also big because that was the first slam dunk contest they had in 3 seasons. And he put on that type of show. And then you go on, and
Jason
Vince
Richard.
Carter, same, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you had basically Vince Carter was the same mold, a high flyer that people wanted to see dunk. So when it come down to 2003, LeBron's rookie season, like you mentioned, he was pissed off that he wasn't an All-Star. He felt like he should be an All-Star. LeBron was with also, he was endorsed by Sprite. Sprite, I think they endorsed the slam dunk contest. Sprite was trying like hell to have LeBron participate in it because they knew what would it bring. They was presenting LeBron, I believe, with mega money. Hey, just please do this. LeBron was pissed off about not making that roster, so he said, "I ain't doing nothing that weekend."
Yeah.
And I
And
believe, and still to this day, I believe that, and also as time went on, LeBron recognized he's an in-game dunker. He's not
yeah,
a creative dunker, which a
that
lot of players in the NBA are not.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. Like you can get the guys, and it kills me. Like when I watch the N1 stuff, and they will talk about the guys, like, man, you come out here and this, and then and it reminds me, Kyrie was like, man, your diet is trash. You don't eat, you don't work out enough, you don't this, and then you look at them, and it's like, yeah, bro, you're 6'3" and you got incredible hops, but like you got to do a lot more to
That's
get
it.
there. Like that's it. And the thing is, LeBron also, if you remember, and that's why I'll say I can be fair with it because I got over as a Laker fan, I got over the Kobe LeBron stuff like years ago, so I could enjoy how Brady was. Because it started off, we was what he graduated high school in 03. I graduated in 05. So it was just like I seen him coming up, and I was like, this is I've never seen this. Like he literally led to the high school athletes being on television. Like he literally
Hmm.
led that. That was not really a thing before.
They wasn't
But
high school wasn't getting nationally televised games until
no,
LeBron was in high school.
yeah, no. And so like to see him come up and do it, but also to see the gotta criticize him. Who was that slammed on him in that one-on-one game? I know he's got a brother and they got a good family and they've been in the league, but he had Nike confiscate the tape. That your ears are too big, bro. You gotta stop listening to everything. Yes, bro, you got yammed on. Everybody, bro. Tim Duncan is a top 75 player, and I've seen you dunked on him so many times. He started looking like, hey man, he looked at them like, bro, y'all need to call something because I guess somebody wasn't communicating, and he slammed on him hard. And it looked like I think it was after he had swept them in the final, so he hammered it hard, like hey, I remember that, and I was like, yeah, it was like, come on, bro, everybody gets dunked on. Like, so it's like you gotta eat that. And I felt like stuff like that is another reason why he didn't want social media, which wasn't as big, to just be all LeBron. Well, and then of course to hear, well, Jordan won that. And I was like, and he probably was like, why do it? Also, another reason to it was Nike's to blame. Hey, bro, when he got out of high school, he had 90 million waiting on him. So that money Nike was offering was like, I'm already good. It was hard to entice him because he's already got a lot on his plate. So I'll blame him, but I will also blame the league. And I also pointed out is you made a great point. Remember how you said Jordan wasn't who he was yet? You know who else won a dunk contest? But it was one of the most underwhelming dunk contests you'll ever see. My boy Kobe. That contest he
Yeah,
won his rookie year was kind of like, bro, is that Brent? Is that Brent Barry? Come on, dog. The field was weak.
yeah. People and Kobe was looked at as a jumper, and
Yeah.
at least he participated. And the fact that LeBron never participated, which further, and then people put the blame on it because if you look back since LeBron did not participate way back in '03, and since he been, especially his early years in the league, stars no longer compete in that. Now we got lucky in 2016 when Aaron Gordon
Who should have
and
won?
Zach Levine put on a good show, but they weren't stars. Hell, the,
Yeah.
the 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 dunk contest made their names. So that's what we have to depend on now. 'Cause a lot of these
Man,
dudes
I didn't
now.
want to say it. I didn't want to
Oh,
say
you
it,
talking
man.
about Mac McClung?
I don't want to get in no trouble. I don't want to get in no
I'm
trouble.
gonna get to that one. I'm gonna get to that one. But yeah, just the stars don't compete, and a lot of players now that really compete in these slam dunk contests, the average fan don't even know who they are.
No.
And then on top of that, they go and put bad shows out there.
Those.
So they're not notable names. They've taken too long to finish a dunk. The dunk creativity is down. It's
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 for
some
years it's been going down, but now people like okay, they want to say the Mac McClung after his recent this past weekend, his performance. And I think the biggest thing about that, and it's really just Mac McClung. 'Cause I don't think anybody else really came. Jericho Sims, he hearing about it for that little, I don't know what the hell they letting him hear that about that little 50 he tried to put up that he had a hard time opening up. But with McClung, the biggest thing about him, all his dunks he got on the first try. All of them. Not only were they creative, he got them on the first try, just like Vince Carter. He got his on the first try. So that is huge. You doing creative dunks and you get them before. So we're not watching you sit here mess around doing 5 attempts. I was like, nah, he so it was and Zach Levine and them, they was basically doing it too. So when you see boys putting on the creativity and getting them on the first try, that is what rise the stakes of the popularity of the dunk contest that's been failing for the past several seasons. It just happened a G League player had to come and do it, which further goes back and tell me that
Yeah,
Stephen A. Smith brought up a good thing that the NBA should try. Forget letting because obviously the stars are not. Cause I remember when the slam dunk contest came on that Saturday night, that was like the main event, the crown. Everybody was waiting on that. Now you can care less. Hell, I just wait to the highlights because I know the
yeah.
names are low, and a lot of time they're not doing putting a good product on the court for that show. But if the NBA players go out and sponsor these street dunkers and let them come in and put on a hell of a show in front of a huge crowd, I think that would be good because that's what Mac McClung was known. Mac McClung was known off of YouTube videos because of his
Yeah,
dunking ability. And then he's in the G League, but you see the type of potential that if you bring an actual creative dunker, since the NBA currently can't do it right now, you see the hype that it can bring to that event again.
I'm not even
That
gonna.
was back in the past would have like a nice credibility to it.
I'm not even gonna lie. Even if I would say do even if you do it for pretend and just the talks of it and the drum beat, the professional NBA guys are gonna be like, we're not gonna let these guys that can't even play in our league come out here and put on our show. It would take either a lot of talk or negotiation or 1 year to do it, and then I think you would save the dunk contest for another 5 to 10 years. But the thing is, as much as we talk about the age of social media and TikTok and everything, it's so tough to be like, hey, let me stay interested in this dunk contest with no big names. And I know he's an injury risk, but somebody that can help save it is like, hey man, he ain't got enough skins on the wall. Zion, man, you got to come out here and dunk, bro.
Zion would be a huge name.
Zion, you got to come out here and dunk, and you got to give me. If you win, you got to come back and do it again. Actually, I would just say, look, give me 2 years because in the future they're gonna be like, now we got to bubble wrap him because he's, I hear the joke all the time about my boy Anthony Davis, and it's like, cool, he's street clothes, but we need an all street clothes team. Anthony Davis is the 5, Zion's the 4, Kawhi's the 3, and then pick whoever else you want. But the transition, because he's a guy that could be like he could be a guy that could lead your team to a championship. But Shawnee, you asked a good question about top 5 NBA players who need to win a title to prove their legacy. And I have a friend that's really, and I hope he watching. My boy Nick is watching because he always says like he calls Chris Paul an overhyped loser because he's one of them guys championship or nothing kind of guy. And it's kind of like I don't see it as that way, but as much winning and as good as his numbers look when you stack them, the championship ring will be the icing on the cake. And it's like I don't know if you can put KD on it. I don't think if you could put both him and KD on the list because I do think if KD never wins another title, you can always say as great as you put LeBron, I beat him twice in the finals and I swept him. He can always have that. Yeah, you can look at everything else with he had this because I think over time we're going to look at the teams. We may look at the teams a little differently because I can say already in 2023 we need to have a serious conversation about what was legitimately on that Heat team. Like legitimately, we know Chris Bosh was taken early, but when we look at hey, that was D Wade struggling with that weak team to win 40 games. LeBron didn't have enough talent in Cleveland, and nobody was thinking about Chris Bosh in Toronto. And they decided to link up and go to Miami and have nothing but minimum guys around them. So it's like that's one conversation you can have with that team. KD going to the Warriors and all of that. We know that was a different
Yeah,
deal.
because he went to an established
Established
juggernaut
that
already.
just beat him. Like that's the thing that gets me when they be like, if in which I think it's the people that make memes and things. I think it's like set people to be like, hey, we're gonna make all these memes to piss off this fan base today, and they'll be like, if Jordan acting like LeBron, and they had Magic and him in Bulls, Magic and Bird and Bulls jerseys or whatever, or joining their team, and it was like historically that's all types of wrong. He actually beat Magic in the finals. Hold on, he said Magic McCloud is G League anymore. It's not,
No,
hey,
he's on a two-way contract,
you're
I
on a two
believe. That's
way.
why. Yeah.
But the thing is, I appreciate them having that. I just don't want guys to have to come and do that. Like they did that in the 2000s. I want to say Reebok started the ATR brand, the above the rim, and it was Jay Richardson and a whole bunch of guys that were high flyers. It was also almost like if you won a dunk contest, you could get that deal. Jay Rich won it 2 years in a row and was a great in-game dunker and show dunker as showcased as he won those. But I say Chris Paul is at the top, man. Chris Paul is at the top of it.
I,
He needs
I
to get a chip.
I say Chris Paul because he by far he's been in the league the longest out the names I had in mind. Um, he had his opportunities. Of course, his big one was with the Rockets. Well, he had multiple. He had one with the Rockets. He had one with the Clippers, where the Rockets ended up coming back on them from a 3-1 deficit in that whole series.
With the when
Uh,
they were still the Hornets, they were up on the Spurs in that series,
yeah.
if I'm not
So he had
mistaken.
his moments. Then, of course, he was in the finals, what, 2 years ago versus the
2-0.
Bucks. And then, of course, they had the best record in the league last year, and then for whatever reason, just fell
In game
apart.
7.
And hell, Chris Paul had more points. I look at that game. The biggest flop in that game was Booker because he's the scorer, but he only put up 11 points that night. And Chris Paul, I think, at least had like 20 some, but neither one of them helped anyway.
And,
But
and not to give CP3 a pass, even though he's the bigger all-time name, and he's probably going to be the greater all-time player than Booker, unless he takes another jump. Um, Chris Paul gets a bad rap in. You remember him because he's the name, but after the 2-0 lead and everybody trying to be the next fill in the blank, stop trying to be the next Kobe or whatever, pulling up in the nice cars and everything, Devin Booker disappeared, man. And I was telling people, I was like,
yeah,
y'all giving him a lot of credit, and it's almost like he hasn't put in enough skins to be on this list, but he's in that next group of, hey, bro, you need a chip because they put a lot on you, and now you got next to you, you got a certified sniper, a certified beast, and Kevin Durant, which I'm not sure when he's going to play, but I would
I
rest
think
him as
about
long as I
another
could.
week or two. But one of the reasons I was wanted to ask that question because the two names I had, one of them, his his legacy is already established, but it was primarily done in the first part of his career, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Pretty much
Mm,
majority of Kawhi's success came from his early years as far as with the Spurs, and then of course when he led the Raptors on that one season, he was with them to the finals, to the championship. He's still a great player because I completely did not know. I forgot that he made the NBA first team in 2001, and he only played 57 games. He didn't even play a whole. He missed like damn near almost 30 games and still made
yeah,
the first team. Kawhi Leonard to me, when because his offense, he was always a defensive juggernaut, and his offense started to match it. Kawhi Leonard to me, when I remember somebody I saw on the internet, they say in a short phrase, how would you label Kawhi Leonard? And I said greatness stalled. Kawhi Leonard
yeah,
had the greatness to be on the caliber of Michael Jordan as far as the stuff that he could do. Now the MVPs, what Michael had what 6,
5.
5. Obviously he probably wasn't going to reach that, but his skill set. Michael was an elite defender. Kawhi, an elite defender. Michael, of
Defensive
course,
player
everybody
of the
know his
year.
scoring. Exactly. Kawhi, I think Kawhi was 2 times defensive player of the year or just one time. I think it's one
Yeah,
time, and
I
he
know it
made
was was
multiple defensive teams, first and second. But if you look at it, Kawhi's scoring was starting to be up there with his dude can do, and it's all in the front of his career. And then all of a sudden the injuries happen, and then now unfortunately people kind of forget how he was, and now they just look at him as Mr. Load Management. And
And the sad thing is, him being like I was listening to a podcast and they was like, load management is not stopping him from getting hurt. It's like he's still
exactly
getting hurt, and it's
his
lower
injuries and
leg
all that.
injuries, and he bulked up, but it's like the legs is the issue. So the explosion is not there, and like he's a guy that he became he was an efficient
That
scorer,
dude,
but shooting
exactly.
a three
His
and then
scoring was
the mid range, and that's why people gave you that. Oh, he can get in the back because
he was lethal.
Jordan and Kobe had those post games where you could go hit a turnaround fader. You a 6'7" guy, you get a little guard on you, you going to work. And it's just like he was a guy that could really get it done. And they're a team that I'm glad you put him on there because Kawhi, I forgot about him. And I try not to make it look like I'm like hating on like the Clippers or whatever. Because like as a Lakers fan, like, hey bro, I really don't see that. Like, yeah, I hear that rah-rah and y'all, they've won and beat a lot of games against us in the regular season. But I know that everybody said the bubble didn't matter, but man, they sure did choke a 3-1 lead to Jokic. And that's because I was like,
And Jokic was the next name I had in mind.
boom.
Jokic, he and I can't really cause with Jokic you can't really say because Jokic his team is just even though
He's
I
that
believe because Denver
bad
is
level
currently number
legend.
one seed, I don't think
Yeah,
they're gonna win the title. Um, so Jokic just never really, as of yet, because they had injuries and whatnot, his team was just never able to get him to that finals. But he's under a different type of pressure because he's going to be potentially the first back-to-back-to-back MVP this league has had since Larry Bird. And that's man, if you obviously and people don't even talk about that dude at all. I mean, you get dudes who win one MVP, their names get mentioned a whole lot more than Jokic.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that
They
is like
disrespect them.
that
But they
is like
disrespect them. But it's also kind of like this is the and Nick Wright. I know people give Nick Wright a bunch of crap. Take how you feel about a person and listen to some of the stuff they say. A broke clock can be right 2 times a day. And one thing Nick Wright is right about is this should be his first MVP because we disregarded the MVP rules for the first two. We disregarded like where you're supposed to be in your place, but the numbers and the analytics say he's supposed to be here. But now the wins and the numbers match up, and it's kind of like, man, it would be great if this was his first one. And it's kind of like his MVPs, while he deserved them, it's if he doesn't produce in the playoffs, it's gonna feel real Steve Nash like. It's gonna feel real
but
like
that's the thing. Jokic do be producing. He does produce in the playoffs, even in
yeah,
his past two
true,
MVPs. It's just his team. Because he still put up the
yeah.
same number in the playoffs that he do in the regular season, but his team was never good enough,
That,
injuries or whatnot, that they couldn't go high. Now it's going to
this
be
is the
interesting
year.
to see exactly. But now they just got to continue to play a type of ball because now these other teams, Dallas, even though they got Kyrie, it still remains to be seen the rest of the dudes. But Phoenix, because it's just they obviously amped it up. It's going to be interesting to see how they can go against Denver. But
I just
yeah, with
wanted. I wonder if they have enough depth though.
yeah, go ahead.
Phoenix. That's the thing. I wonder does Phoenix have enough depth because
Exactly, exactly.
they
'Cause
were.
that
Yeah,
trade gave all that debt.
Mikael Bridges was a key piece as far as the. That's why I
Hmm.
thought I wanted to see them versus the Warriors because I was like they got the wings to go out and compete against Steph, and I just I wanted them to make Steph just go off and be like, hey, I'm averaging 35 and 7. What are you gonna do about it? I wanted to see that because if you challenge him, he rises to the occasion. And my thing is, if my team is out, even if my team isn't, I want to see great basketball because I know people were mentioning, man, the All-Star numbers is down, and of course using anything to tie LeBron into it with it, and the All-Star break. Like somebody was like, when Jordan was in the league, the ratings were, and like somebody, and I made a comment, and somebody was just like, so you comparing somebody's ratings, TV ratings, to somebody from the '90s, or somebody in the post TikTok social media streaming era? It was like, what are you really doing? You know you have a vendetta, and it's clear. So we can't keep you into the conversation because you just using it to pile on this man. So it's like, but if you look at it, the ratings are an issue. But like I tell everyone, they didn't pay billions of dollars because nobody is watching. People are streaming and people are watching the NBA, especially come playoff time. So I hope KD gets healthy. And I hope the Nuggets. I hope they have Michael Porter Jr., somebody that's a key piece to them who's won a championship.
And Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray, but Kentavious Caldwell Pope is one of their keys because he's going to have to guard those perimeter players if they're going to get to where they need to be. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a guy you're going to see him offensive or defensive sub because it's not there, but they're going to have to get it out of him. And Jokic is going to have some of them. I'm putting the team on my back games. And then
another key player for them is Aaron Gordon, who is extremely important.
Gordon. Another defender, Aaron Gordon and Caldwell Pope. If they're on and they're not in foul trouble because they're gonna have those tough matchups, that's gonna be something to really watch for. But somebody I wish I could put on the list, but I'll put them on the list because at some point it's weird the way the NBA goes, and I'll put him on there. I'll put Dame Lillard, man. If what it would and not you deserve to do more, but what would a championship do to his legacy? The NBA bet on him. Don't forget, he's a top 75 guy. They need that to pan out. They need that to pan out. Like, I'll tell you one that people thought was controversial at the time, and it panned out. Shaq made the top 50 team and only been in the league like 4 years. Boy, did that pan out. They need this one to pan out. And I don't know if he can do it in Portland.
Well, individually, because that top list is just individual.
Yeah,
the top list is individual.
I want Dame to win so bad. Like he embodies everything you want from a star, but everybody wants him to beat. And
with Dame, it's different with Dame. Because Dame made people look around the landscape of the West and see that Portland don't have a team to get him to no finals. Yeah, they can't even get him to no Western Conference Finals up there.
Yeah,
Dame had a chance to go somewhere because I look at Portland like Indiana. They just don't get big names coming to them. If you're a major star for them two franchises, you most likely gonna have to go to another squad because they're not coming up there. And hell, that used to be the same thing with Denver, but Denver doing a pretty good job, obviously putting a good team together compared to Portland. And so, but Dame chose to stay with Portland. He wanted that money and all that. So I'm like, all right, man. I mean, yeah, he's going to be a legit top 25. He is a legit the top 25. But I don't look at him as a pressure to win a title because he chose to basically stay with this mediocre organization. So I'm like, man, okay, if that's what you want, stay there.
You're right. You right. I'll give him that. But the thing is, somebody who I don't want to be put near this list or put in that play, he's just the all-time bag getter as far as getting to the money. And that's Bradley Beal. Like, I heard people say, oh, he's finally starting.
Bradley Beal is another.
I was like, no, he's not. And the thing is with him, Dame led his team to the West Finals when he had enough pieces. He just ran up against the Warriors, and they had no chance. But the fact that Bradley Beal can't even make the playoffs, he can't make the play-in.
Yeah, he took it up a notch. He's clearly just for the money.
He's just for. And then the thing is, I was telling people, and I never really thought of him as a star, but people were like Bradley Beal. And I'm like, he's a second guy at best. I never saw him as the star. And then like he's a volume scorer that doesn't really make like him and Porzingis are almost the same thing, except he's a better player. Porzingis is balling with no superstar. He's balling with no superstar. And I remember I told two things I told Mavs fans on, man. And I hope it don't make me look bad. I told them, y'all not going to miss Porzingis, and you can find a replacement that's better than Jalen Brunson. Now, who would you rather pay? Would you rather pay Kyrie, or would you rather pay Jalen Brunson his salary that he's making? I'm just saying, like, I will say this. It's different when you're not a active fan. You can look on the outside looking in and be like, well, you got this, or you got that. Whereas when you're rooting for the team, I fear fans, like, they're like, man, get rid of Tim Hardaway Jr. I was like, bro, have you seen his contract? And not just that, look at his advanced numbers. He can only play with Luka. He can't get shots for himself. When he playing with himself, when he did it in New York, it was an inefficient 18 points a night. And that's why you put him with Luka or you put him with Kyrie, he's going to get open shots. He's going to hit. He's going to go crazy hot. We went to the game. He was crazy hot, and then he went cold. That's just Tim Hardaway Jr. And that's just how it is. And it's like sometimes it's tough for fan bases to see that. And there's always somebody that they whoop up on and beat. Like the Lakers, obviously the last 2 years, it had been Russell Westbrook. But also people from the outside was like, man, y'all too hard on him. And I'm like, you're not watching them games up at 11 something at night where he's got the ball and LeBron doesn't, and he takes up and jacks a shot. And it's like, bro, you get tired of seeing that. Like, bro, all the rebounds and
What
the
think
assists you
about
got.
Russ? I guess you don't really have to see him when he when he was wearing the Lakers uniform, but he was doing that. You could have
Yeah,
saw that when he was
yeah,
in a Wizards uniform, a Rockets
yeah.
uniform. That's it. His style of play is the same since he came into the league, and that's the main issue with Westbrook because he
Yeah.
don't want to modify it. You know, you
He
don't have
don't
to be a 3 point shot shooter all the time, but you're gonna have to be a better shooter. Period.
want
Plays mid
period.
range, and
Right.
that's the biggest thing about
Man,
it. He plays the same way.
it never came. But now I can't, as far as the round out the list, I can't think of another guy that just
Oh,
has
I got
hard
another
work.
name.
Who you got?
It's James Harden. James Harden right now, because James Harden, because see, Jokic, well, Chris Paul is not on that list because he's older. So him and James Harden kind of on a similar list. Their age is starting to get to him. Chris Paul more than Harden. This is possibly James Harden last legitimate team that he's on right now, where he's a second and third option. Of course, Embiid's number one. Then he goes back and forth with Tyrese Maxey, which is good for Harden because he was like that when he was
Mm,
with Brooklyn. And so this is possibly his best team since his Rockets days that he has an opportunity to get to the title, at least to the NBA Finals, because he hasn't been to the NBA Finals since his early
Early years with
time
OKC.
with the OKC when he was coming off the bench. So since he been like that dude or whatnot, that this will be his he hasn't been to the finals since. And he was with the Rockets, and unfortunately, because I believe he probably would have had a ring with the Rockets if it wasn't. It's just unfortunate there was a juggernaut that was created that not only the Rockets couldn't get past, apparently nobody else could get past them neither, and that was Golden State. The Rockets challenged them better than any other team though in the NBA, but eventually Golden State just had too much talent. And then of course you already know about all the stuff in Brooklyn, and then with Philly. Only thing now in the East, you got not only Philly, but you
Yep.
also got to contend with Boston and Milwaukee.
Yeah. And
And so, but this is the best team because he doesn't have no titles. So that's when he's in the same boat as Paul, and he has his MVPs, and he's already accomplished a lot of stuff in his career. So he needs that title because I think once if he leaves and plus he's back with Daryl Morey, whatever however that is. But I
and
think if
Darren
he
Moore
leaves
has
this
his
team,
guys. Daniel
yeah,
House is. I
exactly,
didn't realize Daniel House is back on back with them. Of course,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you got
he is.
Harden. How he and if you look at that team, it's on Doc Rivers, man. He got to get enough. He has to get enough out of Embiid, and I think it has to be a point where you let Harden have his nights, but you need to let Embiid, the younger guy, what is Embiid, 28.
And
You let him
Max.
carry you.
But they
Max,
are for the most part. They've been
yeah,
it's no muddled waters of who is number one, and that's Joel Embiid. And then
yeah,
Harden, like I say, he goes back between number two and number three between him and Maxey. So
yeah.
Harden can basically pick his spots, which is good for somebody at this point of his career. He could be deadly in spots and let two younger dudes carry the weight.
Yeah,
But it's just okay, dude. Your window is getting smaller,
it's getting
so
smaller. What
now
is he getting?
go ahead and do it.
And don't forget those them legs are a little older from all
Exactly.
them nights at dreams. Them nights at dreams, man. I see it. I had people that seen him there, like them nights, him doing that, like, hey, bro, that adds up.
Oh,
Ask Allen
he
Iverson.
was getting spoiled with Houston to the point where
Yeah, they
they be showing they'll show film, and even in a loss they'll show film, but they would take his piece out.
yeah.
So they wasn't showing him stuff what he was doing wrong. They was omitting it and showing other stuff because of Harden's temperament at that time. They didn't want to do anything. They were
Piss him
so
off.
dependent on him, and they didn't want to do anything to lower that or piss him off or whatever. Oh, he was absolutely spoiled in Houston.
And they was flying the jet to Vegas, and all kind of stuff for him, and it's kind of like, hey, bro, if you don't want that drum beat to be real loud, and you want to overshadow that and be like, hey, but I still won in the end. This is the time where it's just like, hey, now I don't know if they got enough switchy wing guys to defend, because I know they got Daniel House, that's 6'6", that's wing size. They got a few other guys on here, but I'm not just seeing a whole bunch of like guys that can just they're gonna get it done. Like I will say this, and I know this is late. I know we're getting ready to wrap it up. I want to give props to as far as the trade deadline and how it went down. I got to give props to Rob Pelinka, and I just want to start with saying this. Remember when they wanted him to throw the 2 first-round picks and Russell Westbrook, because the contract was, everybody was looking at it so bad they wanted to fleece the Lakers for John Wall and Christian Wood. And now we see the book is out on Christian Wood. It's like defensively, it's not really there. If he could play the 4 and play another 5 next to him, that'd probably be ideal in another generation. But in this generation, he has to play the 5. He's not going to really get it done. Rebounding okay. Offense is his thing. Defense is not. So that was a trade that was bad. Another deal, and I wanted this one, so I got to fess up. I wanted the 2 first-round picks for Buddy Hield and Evan Turner. I mean, not Evan Turner, not him. His name, Miles Turner. Excuse me. He from DFW. So that was a trade that, yeah, Buddy Hield is shooting the lights out, but that's another smaller guard, 6'4", can't defend, and then Miles would have been playing center, and AD's at the 4, so he's happy and he stretches it. But the wings, the Lakers are able to go and get. Like it was rumored if they wanted who they ended up getting in the long run. So they clearly have been talking about it since the summer. Instead of having to take on Mike Conley, which would have made me kind of like, instead of getting him, they were able to get Vanderbilt, who's a switchy guy, 6'8", can switch and play defense, who made some really good plays. They were able to get D'Angelo Russell, shooter. They were able to get Malik Beasley, shooter. They were able to get Mo Bamba, shot blocker, and can shoot. They were able to get all those different things, only trading 1 pick. So I really will say, not just as a homer, but as filling the needs that your team has, because the team had a lot of holes, but taking the contract of Westbrook and only giving up 1 pick, and then everyone forgets that regardless of how this season plays out, you do the pick swap with New Orleans, but you're going to get a pick in general. So if you want to use that pick in a trade, or as I would say, draft a young player and develop him. Like get a young guy that you can kind of mold, and then you got other tradable. You still have the 1 tradable pick, the 2020, I think the 2029 pick that's tradable. And so he set the team up for this offseason. Also, you got guys on 1-year deals, and you got shooters that are going to play with LeBron. They're going to get open shots. And so that's going to help their efficiency. It's going to help their offseason market. You might bring them back because the offseason market is not going to be crazy other than Kyrie. And you still got the Kyrie thing hanging out there, which I'm not. I don't want the 3 stars because when you trade the 3 stars, your roster is barren. And now you're depending on, hey, Melo, come hoop with us. Like, nah, bro, I'm not trying to see that again. I want the balanced team like we had in 2020. And I give him props for that. Also, I give the whole league props for like it was from what I heard, it was not a buyer's market. It was a seller's market. And they found a way to wait them out and get the deals done that they needed. Like, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen this next season, off season, but what KD got and what they gave up for KD and what happened with Rudy Gobert and that Gobert trade, surprise, not really working out.
Yeah, with Phoenix, because Phoenix is like last year was like how Denver is this year. A lot of mainly homegrown talent, and then brought in some key free agencies or trades to spark them up. And that was Phoenix last year, and they did that. And kind of like what happened, well, that's what happened with the Rockets, which I believe they shouldn't have done when they traded for Russell Westbrook, uh, Paul for Westbrook. And I believe they should have kept Paul because at that time you already know the Rockets' biggest thing they couldn't get past Golden State. And at that time you already knew KD and Clay was out. So Golden State, you already know they wasn't gonna be the same. If they would have kept that team, the Rockets probably would have finally made a final. But they panicked and traded Paul, and then next thing you know, they tried to get super creative by trading away their center for just to have Westbrook somewhat productive.
And it wasn't even being creative. It was a force because you made Harden, and I will say this, 2 moves by stars that totally screwed the team. LeBron getting Westbrook. LeBron pushing for that. And them
And
listening, and the Rockets trading Harden, trading Paul. And my thing is, with trading Paul, it looks like, if you want to be honest about it, maybe they should have just stood pat and waited to do a deal, because 2 teams that stood pat and then had to do the deal later, between the Lakers still eventually trading Westbrook and getting a better deal from it, but also the Nets, they say, hey, let's calm down on the craziness, get the team playing, and then those trades happen like boom, boom. If you're gonna make those moves like that, I almost would have wished that Hope would make happen simultaneously, but I would have just boom, boom, handled both of those deals. They did it similar to that, and once Kyrie left, he was gone, and the Rockets just panicked. And that's the one thing that Daryl Morey never gets the blame for enough for me, because he's so the analytic guy. People are in love with that, and it's just like, bro, you can't just be in. And I've heard Bomani Jones say this a bunch. You can't just be in love with these analytical numbers. They're great. You got to look at how people are going to work. And Chris Paul style and the way James Harden gets down, that was not going to work unless they won. And
but
they
the thing
needed
about
it.
it was working those two
Yeah,
seasons. Those two
it
seasons,
worked.
Chris Paul, you saw a complete difference. That's when Harden's defense greatly improved. You saw a huge difference. And then for whatever reason, Harden, just like he did when it was Dwight Howard, and, people thought, Howard was willing. He was willing to do whatever the Rockets needed. Harden was the one. I don't want him there no more. So they got rid of Howard, and then Paul, basically the same thing. Harden, because like I say, he was spoiled. But going back to what the Phoenix point, they was originally homegrown, but after that loss against the Mavs in Game 7 last year, on top of they started slow, even though Booker was hurt, he had time been hurt. They started slower this year. I don't want to. They clearly put their chips in play for just this year
Mm-hmm.
because they sacrifice a lot of depth to go get Durant.
Yeah,
And okay, we're gonna see how it's gonna go this year. And on the thing about it is, like we brought up the point that I guess you could say second half, but it's only, and then on top of that, he was injured, so he hasn't played yet. So that's the thing
mm-hmm.
about with the whole Mavericks trade. Kyrie was traded, and maybe about within a week, him and Luca have been playing together
Mm-hmm.
after the trade, so they begin experience. Durant still hasn't played with Paul and Booker yet, and they don't have that much game. They going next thing you know, it's gonna be less than 20 games. These dudes will have to figure out this chemistry, which is a legit deal. You saw that with Miami back in the day
Yeah,
with LeBron and them. So it's a legit deal. Chemistry's gonna have to be built. So Denver has the leg up on that. They
they got
homegrown, and they had
homegrown.
some key free agents and trades with Aaron Gordon and whatnot coming to them. They playing good team ball. So you're gonna see basically a lot of people, they predicting they're gonna see a Suns Nuggets Western Conference Finals. You're gonna see a team now homegrown versus a team now
That's
who's
been
who's
traded.
kind of a hybrid. They
Hybrid. Yeah.
well, they homegrown. They two of their stars,
Two of their
Aiden and
stars.
and
Yeah,
Booker, but the other one was trades and free agency. I guess Paul was by trades, so they both by trades. But they sacrificed debt to bring in
definitely.
these this big name. So that's the thing. And then the East, it's kind of like Milwaukee. Milwaukee is for the most part is homegrown, and they was able to really sustain. That's who I believe who really, especially since they got back Middleton. I believe Milwaukee ultimately will be
And
coming out
and
the
and
East.
and they added Jay Crowder, who hasn't played all year.
Exactly.
So all he has to
Exactly.
do is get his body in shape. He's a guy that can fit. He's a guy that ever since the Mavericks traded him, he's just been a guy that can glue, and he was made for the league to be a role player and a
Which was
really
weird because
quality.
the Suns had him at home for the first 4 months.
Yeah, they
He
had him at,
wasn't
and
playing.
it was, and that's the thing. It was so bad they had him at home, but I just can't believe it. They had him at home like that, and he's a good player. But you know what? I love team building. Something we can look at on the horizon. You know they could get some depth back this summer, right? The Suns. Aiden is still ain't just it still ain't sweet over there with his situation. They will be able to trade him without him having a no trade clause, I think, this offseason. So this offseason, they'll be surprised if he's on the move. And I know this is random, a team that I hate they did it. I hate that the Warriors gave up on Wiseman. I like Wiseman. And in it, you got to remember, it takes bigs a while to get it together. Like, you already bigger than everyone. You can dominate at this level or look good at this level. When you go to the pros, even though it's not a lot of quote unquote bigs, they have to adjust to the way the small ball type of way. They have to adjust to that. And then when they face a big, they face a Jokic, he gonna eat your lunch. And so you have to deal with that. Like, and I know they got down in Detroit, they got Jalen Duran, the big from Memphis. So now they got him, they got Wiseman. I like bigs. I still think that at the end of the day, if you were able to put that small ball type of lineup with a more talented player than what's the guy that helped win the chips with the Warriors? What's that center? I forget his name, but the
you
Mavericks.
Talking about McGee?
Not McGee. I can't remember his name.
You talking about the first championship?
No, this championship, this last one when he came. He's from Looney, Kevon Looney.
Oh,
and I felt like if you get a better Looney or a guy like that really makes them ultimate threat. But I know we had a time tonight. I tried not to give y'all too much of my Laker talk because I'm saving it because they got to make the damn playoffs first. But I'm excited to see this post All-Star break, and hell, as far as football concerned, we got the combine and all the draft stuff coming up. But next week I got something I want to share about a clip I heard Dion it, and I know we got to wrap up. So I appreciate everybody coming out, man. Appreciate my co-host as always, and man, this is the 1-to-1 Sports Show, man. We out.
yeah, peace.